going to start by putting our name and class code on the back of our paper. Now it doesn't matter which side is the back because they're both blank. I'm going to flip it over so I don't have to worry about covering up my name. Today we are going to be using a circle tracer, and this is going to help us get that perfect circle that we want. Now, when I trace, I want to hold my hand onto the circle tracer so it doesn't move, and take my pencil and go all the way around the circle, moving my hand out of the way to finish that trace. We have one circle. We want to make sure that our tracing circle does not touch each other. We want to have enough room because we will be cutting these out when they are dry. 2 circles, and I only have enough room for 3 circles, just like that. That is step number 1 on creating your dot painting. Okay, so now that we have our 3 circles drawn, the next step is going to be to paint. So we have our tempera paint here. We have orange, blue, and a turquoise color. And then this year we are going to have a sponge with our water. So half of it is going to be water that we're going to use to clean the brush, and the other part is going to be dirty old SpongeBob, where we wipe and dry our brush off on. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that the Mr. Paintbrush is not wet, because we don't want to get soupy or muddy paints. We want to try to keep them as clean as possible. So I'm just going to paint each circle one of these colors. So first I'm going to start by dipping Mr. Paintbrush into the paint. I'm not scooping like a spoon, just dipping his hair in and getting a nice amount. Then I'm just going to go ahead and carefully paint the entire circle, filling up my brush as I go. If he starts to get scratchy, he's telling you that he's thirsty and he needs a little bit more paint in order to finish painting this awesome circle that we have already traced. So going around the edges. It's okay if you go outside a little bit because we will cut these out when they are fully dry. Just like that, we have finished painting circle number 1. Now what I need to do before I dip into the next color is I need to wash my brush. So I'm going to take Mr. Paintbrush, gently wash him in the water, clean his hair so we can do a color change. Take a look, see he's pretty clean. Go in an X pattern to wipe him off, dry him off. And there should not be any water dripping from his hair or bristles. So the next color that I'm going to use is I'm just going to dip into this blue right here, just on the hair, not on the handle. We don't want to get too messy. And the way that you should hold your paintbrush is kind of how you would when you are writing. It is more comfortable that way. It's easier to control, and you will be able to paint really well. So just like I did with the turquoise paint, I am just going around the inside of the circle. Remember, it's okay if you go outside the lines a little bit because we will cut them out. We are going to be putting this together in a big collaborative mural in the style of artist Jen Stark. Smoothing out any areas that may have too much paint. We want it nice and smooth. So circle number 2 is done. Now I need to wash Mr. Paintbrush. Wash. And I'm just scooting his hair on the bottom of the bowl to help me wipe the paint off a little bit better. And then make an X across dirty old SpongeBob. And making sure there's no water dripping from his hair, dipping into my third and last color, which is this nice bright orange. So the great thing about tempera paint is that you do not need water in order to use them. They are good to use straight out of the bottle. The only reason why we use water is to wash our brush for color change so we don't mix our colors. If you notice, all three colors are still their true form. We don't have any orange in the turquoise or any blue in the orange. They are nice and clean because all of these paints are going to be used in first grade. Second grade is going to use the same paint trays. Third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade. So we want to make sure that we do not waste any paint by mixing it or making it muddy by adding water to it. We want to try to keep them as clean as possible. And I am just spreading out the paint as I go, making sure there are no big clumps. And I am happy with that. I can place Mr. Paintbrush in the water, put these to the side, take my messy mat and my paper to the drying rack, place it on the bottom, and we're gonna work our way up, and then we can take our paintbrush, Mr. Paintbrush, put him in the sink so he can get his hair washed, and then we will put the lids on our trays and clean up our area, wipe our table if we need to, and we are done with that until next time. Now that our painting is dry to the touch, now we can take our scissors and cut our circles out. When you're cutting, you want to make sure your scissors are pointing away from you, and you watch your fingers on the back while you're holding your paper. You don't want the scissors to accidentally get you while you're going around your circle. Do you notice how I'm turning my paper as I'm cutting? I'm not turning my scissors. My paper is doing the turning for me, and my scissors are just following the curves of the circle. I'm gonna go back and cut or trim some of that white paper that's showing. I can set that one aside, move on to the next. If it's easier for you to separate these so you have a smaller piece of paper to work with, feel free to do that. Sometimes I like to do that depending on what I'm cutting out. Again, just following the shape of the circle, turning my paper as I'm cutting. Going nice and slow. I'm gonna take my time. We don't want to get any of the white paper to show. We just want that nice blue circle. Set that off to the side. We're going to put that extra paper that we just cut off into the recycle bin. The recycle bin is green and located by the door. We want to recycle our paper. Again, turning our paper as we're cutting, following the shape of the circle, making sure that we're not going too fast. And here we have our orange, blue, and turquoise circles all cut out. We will place them in the appropriate area to turn in, and you don't have to worry about putting your name on the back of the paper because they are going to be displayed as a big collaborative mural, and nobody will be getting these back at the end. So we have our first painting for our Dot Day display.